When planners surveyed the limestone plains in the early 1900s to site Australia's new capital, it was famously dismissed as a good sheep station spoiled. That reputation began in 1825, when a Scottish pastoralist named James Ainsley arrived with 700 sheep to establish the Duntroon property for a merchant back in Sydney. This move marked the expansion of the Western Outback. However, Ainsley was fencing off land that the Ngunnawal people had managed for tens of thousands of years, land they never ceded. It was the first time the local Ngunnawal population had encountered sheep or a white man. Legend suggests they initially mistook Ainsley for a returning dead spirit. The official history of the capital is often framed through this lens of pastoral discovery, a narrative that effectively erases the existing Ngunnawal sovereignty. The actual settlement of Duntroon relied on exploitation. To secure his position, Ainsley took a local Aboriginal woman who had been captured from a neighboring tribe. Within 10 years, Ainsley was running 20,000 sheep across the plains. For the Ngunnawal, this meant rapid dispossession, forced removal to reserves, and the introduction of devastating new diseases. This displacement continued through the era of the stolen generations, where the forced removal of children inflicted intergenerational trauma that continues to impact Ngunnawal families today. This animated chart illustrates the legacy of that frontier. In the modern ACT, First Nations residents face a 10-year life expectancy gap and are 10 times more likely to live in social housing than the rest of the population. The prosperity currently enjoyed in the nation's capital is a direct result of this historical and ongoing marginalization of its traditional owners. To address this legacy, Ngunnawal elders are now leveraging their unceded sovereignty to negotiate a formal treaty with the ACT government. The proposal is built on 3 pillars: reparation for the past, participation in the present, and representation in the future. A central feature is the Ngunnawal Future Fund. This is a legacy fund designed to resource family goals, from private health coverage to home ownership. The fund would be sustained by a Ngunnawal procurement clause in government contracts and a pay-the-rent levy applied to properties across the territory. The plan also includes immediate payments to elders to kickstart family wealth. This acknowledges that while the average ACT resident is among the wealthiest in the world, Ngunnawal families have been systematically excluded from that prosperity. These financial mechanisms are intended to move the conversation from symbolic apology toward a concrete process of wealth redistribution and economic justice. The political blueprint involves transitioning the territory's First Nations elected body into a formalized ACT Treaty Commission. This commission would hold independent decision-making authority, acting as a direct voice to the ACT Legislative Assembly on matters of territory law. The path forward is structured into 10 steps, starting with a partnership between the Chief Minister and the United Ngunnawal Elders Council. Step 6 requires a Ngunnawal family register, using genealogical records to verify descendants and identify eligible participants inside and outside the territory. This ensures the Ngunnawal diaspora, those whose families were driven away from the limestone plains generations ago, still have a seat at the table. By verifying lineage and requiring collective consent, the framework ensures the final treaty is a community-led mandate, not just a government agreement. When implemented, the treaty activates Ngunnawal sovereignty in everyday life. Language will be taught in all ACT schools and used each year to open the Legislative Assembly. Land management shifts as well, with Ngunnawal representatives holding observer seats in government and exercising consent over developments on their traditional country. Environmental goals include bicultural councils to manage the territory's waterways and creating cultural precincts where young people connect to the land with elders. These changes redefine the capital itself, returning it from a site of colonial grazing land to a center of Ngunnawal cultural and political power. In Canberra's Civic Centre, a reclining sheep sculpture mocks the area's pastoral history. It is a satirical nod to James Ainsley's arrival. But the treaty proposal moves beyond satire. It outlines legal shifts that address the structural causes of inequality, moving from a critique of the past to a mandate for the future. This framework provides a new template for Australian jurisdictions to negotiate reparative justice directly with traditional owner groups. Ultimately, the Ngunnawal Blueprint establishes that reconciliation rests on the actionable return of land, wealth, and sovereign power.